All right, well, it is the top of the hour, so we would like to warmly welcome you all for attending the Microsoft 365 Development Biweekly Community Call. Today's May 27th. I'm David Warner, Principal Consultant with Catapult Systems and PnP team member, and acting as your host for today's call. Our agenda for the call today includes the reviewing of updates for our PnP initiatives. We're going to go through the gamut of those that are relevant for this call: PowerShell, PnP Framework, Core SDK, Yo Teams, Microsoft Graph Toolkit. Oh my, so many more. Team samples, and then of course the favorite optional picture time we're going to be all involved with. So we look forward to that. And then we've got 3 incredible demos from Stefan, Thomas, and Chris. So we look forward to all of those. Let's begin, though, with the opportunities to participate in the community. We have an inclusive open source community, so we would love to see you get more involved. That could include demoing a solution on these calls. We would love to see you demo a solution or a sample that you've created. If you've not yet created a sample, well, that's the next opportunity. Provide or contribute to GitHub. We have a lot of sample repositories which we'll show you that are available to you, all open source, all available for you to contribute to. Of course, we always welcome feedback. And as Patrick says, we love positive feedback, but we want to know about all feedback. So if you have any constructive criticism or feedback that you would like to see us make in terms of changes for these calls or within the community, please let us know. We want everyone to feel welcome and empowered to make the community yours as well. Let's go to our plethora of links. There are a ton of resources and opportunities available for everyone, whether it be starting with developer videos. If you'd like to learn more about some of the features and resources and tools and initiatives available to us within this community, you can go to aka.ms m365dev YouTube. And then, of course, we've got our Microsoft PnP community videos at aka.ms/m365 PnP videos. Now, we have a whole host of open source SharePoint related items. You can see all those links there. The list keeps on growing as we move to the right. Sample galleries aplenty. Team samples, web part samples, Power Platform samples, extensions, list formatting. The list goes on. So please don't hesitate to take advantage of those. If you are feeling overwhelmed by that and need one place to go, aka.ms/M365 PnP is your landing spot that will take you to all these variety of resources that are available to you in one stop. Next up is our Viva Connections private preview. So if you would like to register for this preview, then take advantage of that aka.ms link at the bottom. You can build optimized mobile experiences for Microsoft Viva Connections. So go to that link and register if you're interested in becoming part of that private preview. The Microsoft Teams Toolkit version 2 is now available, so you can access that at aka.ms/teams-toolkit. Works within Visual Studio Code to allow you to create, debug, and deploy Teams apps directly within VS Code. So kind of consolidates that experience to a nice packaged experience. Samples aplenty when Teams is on the shelf. So if you would like to use or contribute, this is a sample gallery that is, again, available to everyone in the community. You can take advantage of it by going to aka.ms/teams-samples. Again, this is open source, so it's not just for using. You can absolutely contribute back to it, and we invite you to do that. We'll see a few samples here at the end of the intro slides today, in fact. Now, if you're looking to see how you could get some inspiration or how others have created solutions and samples in a more consumable lookbook-like way, the new Microsoft 365 Extensibility Lookbook Gallery is available. So aka.ms/M365/extensibility. It's going to show you different verticals in which the platform has been extended: SharePoint, OneDrive, Power Automate, Power Apps, Microsoft Teams. You're going to be able to see it from a technology perspective, scenarios. It's a really enjoyable experience to get ideas on how you can extend your SharePoint experience. Now, all of these things combined may feel a little overwhelming. Well, if you call now, we have even more for you. But in this case, we're going to provide you hands-on guidance. Now, the Sharing is Caring is an initiative or a program within the Patterns of Practices community that provides hands-on guidance on how to take advantage of, whether it's using the resources that are available to you or contributing back. You may just simply want to start getting started with the resources that are available and not quite sure how to do that. There's a lot of resources available, such as SPFX samples, not quite sure how to use all of them. They span the spectrum of versions, so how would I take advantage of those different versions? How do I manage them? We have sessions that provide you guidance on how to do that. When you've moved beyond that and you want to start contributing back, well, there may be some hurdles there as well around how to utilize GitHub. Perhaps you would like to demo on a call, but you're a little nervous. Wide spectrum of opportunity for sessions that are available to you. Now, these are hands-on guidance sessions that are safe space, inclusive opportunities. We do not record the sessions. They're absolutely free, and they're scheduled every month, all throughout the month, for you to join and take advantage of in a collaborative space. We also have the Ask Me Anythings coming up in June for Graph and MGT, as well as Teams Dev. So two popular topics that we'll actually see a little bit more about today. And then topics coming soon are how to contribute back to those repos, CLI for Microsoft 365, and then the Power Platform. So we invite you to take advantage of all these sessions, again, free, safe space opportunities. All right, let's move into PnP.NET libraries. And I believe Bert is on the call and going to cover this for us.
Yes, thank you, David. So in the PnP.NET world, what had happened for the PnP framework library, so our kind of older libraries, so to say, we are prepping for 1.5, which come out next week. That's the plan. And for 1.5, there was several improvements, actually a ton of fixes and small improvements from Patrick, Gautam, Christian, Anton, and Nick, and myself over the last weeks. One bigger improvement is around the PnP SIG interop. So now you can, if you use PnP framework, you can easily switch to PnP SIG and vice versa. Both SDKs are really tied together, and it's really easy for you to jump from one to the other. And one thing that I definitely want to highlight is we are about to, the next version will have a new provisioning engine schema, the 2021-03 schema. And this time, we're also going to remove deprecated older schemas. Like we mark them as deprecated, but we actually never remove them. So there's like schemas from 2015 still in there. So you will see us drop those, and the supported ones are 2019 and later. So just to be aware, if you're using really old provisioning templates, you might need to upgrade those if you want to use them in combination with the latest libraries. On the PnP Core SDK side, we had several good improvements in this period. Kyle Daly built a way to kind of when you load the PnP Core context. So PnP Core SDK works with PnP context. When you load that, you get like a default web and site object being loaded. With the change by Kyle, you can now plug in your own additional data loads. So with the same request going to the server, you just get more data back. So it's a way to improve performance. If you want to make your own REST and graph calls, you can do that as well right now. It's super easy to do that. We had several model improvements, additional properties on list item and file, and several smaller fixes done by various folks as well. So overall, things are moving good there. And again, also this one will release next week as version 1.2. Think that covers it, David. Back to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Bert. Exciting stuff, definitely. PnP PowerShell. I believe we have Erwin to cover this for us today.
Yep, I'm here. So all the wonderful changes to PnP framework that Bert just presented will drill down automatically to PnP PowerShell. We're working also on version 1.6, and as Bert already mentioned, the schemas for the provisioning engine, basically everything before 2019 will be deprecated and gone. Now, what is not on this slide, but I want to get some feedback from the people here that are today listening. I would be interested in hearing what your thoughts are. I'm not saying we're going to do it, but I would like to hear your thoughts about what if we would not return classic CSOM objects from the commandlets. The reason for that is that we would like to move more and more to the core SDK behind the scenes, and that one does not work with CSOM. Would that be a complete and total blocker for you? Or would you say okay, this could work? The reasoning behind it is that we then probably will introduce more commandlets there, where typically you would do things directly with the object model. You would have to then start to use commandlets instead. So I would like to get your feedback there. Now, we will probably set up a separate session about this where we discuss this in more detail, but this is what we're thinking of. It won't happen in the 1.x releases, for sure not. And it's not even sure it will happen in the 2.0 release, but we're just thinking about the idea of not returning CSOM objects anymore. That was it for me.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Erwin. Moving into Yo Teams. All right, so 3.1 was released last week with support for Viva Connection app creation, and a new preview was made available today with GitHub Codespaces support. Now this is going to make it easy for everyone moving forward, so there's going to be more on this coming soon. But again, 3.1 released last week and Codespaces support released today, in fact. So take advantage, aka.ms/Yo Teams, a fantastic opportunity to create Teams apps within SPFX. All right, moving into Microsoft Graph Toolkit, I'm going to hand it over to Nicola.
Hey, folks. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. So Microsoft Graph Toolkit had one of the biggest updates last week, version 2.2, which had really good things for folks. First one was the MCell2 provider, which is built on top of MCell browser, which allows us to have some really cool experiences like multi-login that's going to be coming into the future. We also released new components, the file components. The file components allow developers to quickly add representations of files or file lists. You can also use things like insights and shared files to quickly get the files for files that are shared with a person, or the most recent files for somebody to create like a file picker. We also released a SharePoint framework library for Microsoft Graph Toolkit, which solves the issue of using multiple web parts on the page and leveraging the same Graph Toolkit instance. This also saves, it's optimized so it can save resources, and thanks to the work that Waldek and Robbie did, it's going to make it really easy for developers to use MGT instead of SharePoint web parts. In addition, we also had a lot of amazing improvements to existing components. Things like MGT person added support for using the presence APIs inside of the templating and inside of the different lines that people can choose. We also added support for a appeal picker, so you can select what kind of user types you want to select, or just selecting default group IDs. Updates to the channel picker to update to the latest permission scopes that are not don't require admin consent by default, and many more updates thanks to a lot of the contributions from the community that helped kind of get these things in the door and kind of get them into the release. What's on the roadmap right now? We have a PR open thanks to Simon on Teams SSO provider. That's going to make it easy for developers to add SSO authentication to existing Teams applications. We are starting to work on a file picker experience that makes it easy to kind of select the file and attach a file. You also have a proposal for uploading files as well, and something we're going to be looking into. And as something that's long-term for the next 3.0 release in the future, we're looking into updating all our components to be built on top of the new Fluent UI web components, take a dependency on the new teaming support that they have there, and kind of make it more cohesive with the rest of the experience. And if you do want to try multi-login experience right now, you can use our preview for multi-login, which allows you to have a user sign in multiple times, multiple accounts, and switch between those accounts really quickly inside of the application, and the login component is updated to work alongside the MCell2 provider to do that. So really good stuff. I'm kind of looking forward to all the work that we're doing.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That's really exciting as well. All right, last but not least, Microsoft Teams samples. Now we've got two new samples this week. The first is from Marcus Moeller. Now it's a bare bones sample showing how a messaging extension can drop an adaptive card into a Teams channel, and then an action on the card updates right in the card in place. So it's a useful scenario for embedding and updating application data right in that Teams conversation. And then why didn't anybody think of this sooner? Well, of course, we go to Sebastian Levert to help us out with that. It's a tab that dumps out the Teams context into the screen. So he shared this one, and it works with all kinds of tabs, personal, group chat, and channel, so you can easily see what information you'll have access to. Again, these are all samples that are available to you for free. In fact, you can use these unique short URLs that'll take you directly to the sample individually, which is a nice little touch that Bob has added for us. You can see them all at aka.ms/team samples, and of course, it is open and samples are welcome. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Even if you have any questions or want to get more involved, take advantage of that sharing and caring opportunity to learn how to submit to these repos as well. All right, now it's time for the optional picture time. So if you'd like to share your camera, we will go into together mode. See everyone. All right, very good. give it just another moment and I will set up the recording. Excellent. All right. Give that 3 seconds to count down and then let's all wave and say hello. It's great to see everybody on. All right. I think Todd was kind of rubbing the noggin for me there. Excellent. All right. Great stuff, everybody. Excellent. All right. Now let's move into the best part of the call, our demos. So we're going to hand it over to Stefan Bauer, who's going to show us his new framework for Fluent design in HTML and CSS. So Stefan, if you'd like to take over.
Sure, thank you. Hello, my name is Stefan Bauer. I'm an Office Development MVP from Austria. And I created, let me share my screen, a new framework which is named HTWOO, which is an alternative to Fluent UI that doesn't require any framework at all. So you can use it, as you see here on the left side. You can use it in Angular elements. You can use it with no framework. You can use it with React. So it's just plain HTML and CSS. So these are actually the samples that if you want to get started with it, but I also have implemented a complete component library and so for a style guide. So when we go over here, what is included already in there? What you see here on the first page is just all the colors that are used by the Microsoft themes in SharePoint. So I directly extracted them from SharePoint and use it here in a plain HTML fashion. I also have included then and redesigned the Fluent UI components just in HTML and CSS. And you always have on the right side, you have an expand button and you see here actually how this is built out. And I have, of course, the default things in here like checkboxes, the input fields with pre and suffix. I have the radio buttons in here. I have interactive search boxes in here, select drop downs that also allows you to filter directly. And this is all built in pure HTML and CSS and with a little bit of JavaScript, for example, for this drop down. Of course, for our applications, we need loading animations, and this works exactly the same way like to the Bootstrap. So you have a style sheet that you reference. You can go in here, expand it, extract the HTML out of here, put it in a SharePoint framework application, for example, or another whatever web application that you're building, and you see exactly the styles here. Of course, there are some nice things in here, like, for example, motions. There's also the typography documented in here. What font weights do we have? The HTWOO also includes a grid framework, which works exactly the way as Microsoft defined it for their SharePoint applications. So right now you see here, I have one box up here and one box on the grid system up here. And when I move this down from the large display to a smaller one, like let's say here medium, for a tablet, then it automatically gets just one column, exactly the way Microsoft described it in their documentations. Of course, also important for an application, I have also the standard buttons in here with all the effects. We have the action buttons in here, the drop-down buttons. This also requires a little bit of JavaScript. They are compound binary compound buttons and all these things that are actually, I guess I currently have a coverage of 80% of what was available in Fluent UI. And we also have avatars in here. So this is all what is currently provided by HTWOO, by the framework. What you also, let's see, the really basic small building blocks for user interface is in this case in HTWOO context follows the atomic design principles, and therefore the smallest blocks of this framework is in the atoms. When we combine two atoms together, then it will become a molecule, like you see here with the card footer that has the avatar image in here and some text elements in here. I also have a molecule in here, which is the card image. And when we roll all these components up into the real document card or so, then this actually gives us this document card that we all know from SharePoint. When you click on the expand button on here, you see what actually the document card pattern contains. So it contains the following card pattern: the molecule card image, which is the topper image, the card location, which is actually the marketing text here. You have the card title, which is new stuff for a cool intranet. And the card footer, as you've seen before, this is this bottom part here. So you see actually these molecules. And what you can also do in here, so how is this, if for example, if you want to see how this card footer is built out, then you can directly click on it. And it should bring you over to the card footer. And here you can do actually the same. You say expand panel, and then it says, okay, the card footer actually contains the atom's avatar, which is then the smallest part. And now we have here a description, what different variants do we have. So we have the avatar with 16 pixels, 24 pixels, 32 pixels, and so on and so forth. So there are a lot of options that you can pick from. Another thing that I also built, and this was actually the starting point in here, was the dialogues. And here are two things like the dialog tester, so which has a small button on peer. So this actually opens up a modal dialog, and when I close it down, then it's back again. And what I mean, the Fluent design itself says that it should have some class, stained glass look at the background, and this is also implemented because it's currently supported by all modern browsers like Microsoft Edge, where I'm currently in, and also by Google Chrome. So you can make this really match one-on-one what you see on the desktop applications for Microsoft and Windows. So you can have this class overlay, which then blurs out the background on SharePoint as well. Of course, you see also here the building components. We have here the molecules dialog header. So if you need something else, then you can directly customize this in your code then, how the dialog header looks like, how the content looks like. Of course, and there are a lot of options to use this. Also, the same markup that I have done here with the HTML is also used for the test sidebar. So when I click here, show dialog, it actually opens up a sidebar, and I have this all documented in these components here. So the sidebar on the left actually shows like this. The sidebar on the right just has a CSS, different CSS class applied to it. So you directly can see this just is sidebar right, and then it will be placed on the right side. I also played around with some new components that not exist in Fluent UI. For example, I have a dialog error, a dialog success, or a dialog warning in there. So it gives me, because I built this up from small building blocks to bigger components, it gives me a lot of freedom to experience, to build out a new experience. And of course, what we also saw before was the avatar images, and I can do also some things like facepal that you will see later on. So how can you use this? Of course, it's an NPM package that you can install to your SharePoint framework solution or to any other system that uses NPM as the base package solution. I don't have a NuGet package yet, and I'm not sure if I will do this. But let's get over to a regular SPFX solution. And this is really a plain HTML solution. So this is, I created already a web part which just use no framework as a default. So there's no React in there, there's nothing else in there. It's just plain HTML web part. So the first thing actually that we need to do is we need to have some sort of code. I did demo this already on a previous call, how to make the web part theme aware. So you have to add some on init, you need to request a theme scope. So, and all the HTWOO components automatically will also apply in SharePoint with the correct theme in there, but you have to add some coding here. The actual one, what we have in here in the render function, I just copied over the HTML from HTWOO directly in here. I just picked here the standard button and the primary button, okay? So if you, for example, have a React control, then you would actually encapsulate this in the React button, in a separate React control that you then add to your user interface. And the really once you have npm installed the H2O package, then you have to do the following. So you have just import here the node modules at NAD H2O core lib component space, which actually just handles all the mix-ins and functions that are required for the other components that you run. And then in your web part code, this is the regular web part H2O sample, which is the default container where the web part is rendered in. And then you have to define it as a global one, because I use global stylings. And this avoids actually that that the SharePoint framework replaces my class names with some random hash at the end. So we then have components in here like import the avatars. So if you just want, if your application just uses the avatars, then you just have to import this file. You can just use the buttons, cards, dialogues, forms, icons, menus, tables, and topography and web parts. So for the web parts, let's quickly go back to the H2O documentation here again. So I have here in molecules, I have here web part related things. And what I actually have in here is the web part title that you can also use. And this works exactly like the Microsoft web part title, just with HTML. So you see the placeholder here, which is the default one at Microsoft, that most web parts are news, and then you can type whatever text in here. So you can use this as well. Let's go back to the code. So these are actually just the style information that you import from H2O, and this is basically the same how you would use a bootstrap. But in this case, when you use H2O, then it gives you the exact same branding that you have on Fluent UI. Let me save this quickly. And now that we have the styles registered, and now that we have in our web part the button in, it should, let's head over to SharePoint. So I have here already my web part deployed, have a SharePoint site running. And what you see in here is the H2O buttons, which is just the primary button and the standard button. I can edit this page. I can also switch here the section background to, let's say, inverted, like what we have at the bottom. And this always gives you the right styles for the H2O components. What I also can do in here is I can change the styles. So I say change look, may select one of the red ones, and automatically the buttons from H2O applies the correct theming. So let's do something else. Add another component. And I already have copied another component out, which is actually the face pass that I showed you before. And I just have a small function which then returns the HTML. And what I do now is I add this to my web part code so that it gets rendered. It takes a little bit, but if we are lucky, we can refresh this one and have already the face pass in here. So it's just use HTML and CSS, but gives you a lot of flexibility to build in whatever framework you choose for Office 365 customizations, whatever you build in the Microsoft ecosystem, to give you the flexibility to use whatever framework you like, and you're not limited to React.js, what Office UI Fabric just provides you. If you have experienced some issues, then you can go over here. It's on GitHub, NAD design/H2O. And to the issue list, if you have some ideas that are because there are some things missing, and there's already a request here with the pivot bar that how it managed the overflow, just join the discussion in here. What you see also on the H2O landing page, you get here a complete documentation, which is my.nad.at/H2O. And it's completely free, open source. And if you want to join or want to provide also some components, then you're also welcome. And I already got a lot of people, some people that helped me fixing some bugs, created some new PRs, and helped me to merge it into this open source, community-driven Fluent UI framework. That's basically all from my side.
Awesome, Stefan. This is very, very cool stuff. A lot of great comments in the chat. I love how simplistic it is to implement and use within our favorite space of developing in the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. So excellent job, super, super cool stuff. All right, Tommy is up next. He's going to show us how to gain your users' attention with the Microsoft Teams Activity API. So Tommy, whenever you're ready to take over.
Yep, just let me share my screen. Here we are. Let's start. Okay. Hello, everyone. Tommy Göll is my name. Tommy or Thomas, depends on what you prefer. You can reach me at this URL. I'm an MVP for Office Development, and I'm working as a team lead for Modern Workplace Solutions for a company in Austria called Solvian. So Stefan and I know each other, and we will see the reference later on in the presentation as well. Today's topic, Microsoft Teams Activity Feed API. Let's have a look at the structure of an item in the activity feed. You see here next to me how an application or your application is represented in the activity feed inside of Microsoft Teams. And yeah, I was a little bit surprised how many metadata or description you can create around such a short pixel area. The interesting part is we have an actor that's basically a person or an application, because you can use the activity feed API as a person or as an application. We will see it later on. We will use an application for that. So there will be the icon of our Teams manifest file there. That is the actor of the action. Then you have a smaller icon that represents, we all know that from someone clicked on like, someone clicked on an emoji or mentioned you, then you have this icons there. And then there's actor plus a reason. So a short text that is used to tell you a little bit what's behind the notification, a timestamp, of course, a location. We will see that that's basically a hint where this notification is coming from. Is it from a team? Is it from a channel? In our case, our own application. So we'll show you how you can basically just write a string there to have your own location in there, and then text preview. For more details, and probably I think it's 20 minutes explanation of all in details, check out this YouTube link. Andrew Connell did, I think, a couple of weeks ago, a great session explaining that all in details. So I will go a little bit more in the use case scenario. So just quickly to have the same level, what we have to do for the Teams Activity Feed API. We need to fulfill 3 requirements. There needs to be a Microsoft Teams app that the user has to be, or the user needs to install a Microsoft Teams app in order to receive notifications. That's very important. Otherwise, it would be possible to basically create, a spamming application. Might not be of interest for a smaller company, but if you have a client or if your own company is multi-thousand users large, you don't want your developers to be able to just create an application that can bug and notify everyone without the need of an admin to do something. So with the installment, of course, an administrator can roll out certain apps, so you have that somehow automatic as well. That's the one thing. Then you need to have an Azure Active Directory application associated inside your Teams manifest that has the correct permissions to call the graph endpoint. And we will see it later on in the manifest of your Teams definition. There are certain activities defined, and you can have multiple activities definitions, but they all have a name. And if you call a notification API, you need to make sure that you have the right name for the right application. So for example, if your application A has 3 or 4 activities, you really need to call those by name again. Otherwise, the system will tell you, okay, you called me, but you didn't provide the correct activity type, so I cannot notify the end user. What does that look like? Here you see the example we're going to use later on in my Microsoft Teams app manifest. We have the reference to the application in Active Directory on top here. So this is the ID, and the resource is basically just a reference to my URL that we will use. And then we have those 2 activity types. And I created 2 different specific, one simple one and an advanced one. The simple one, we will see later on, just is more like a demo case for me to see, okay, if I write something here, where does it pop out in Teams? So we will see description, template text, and all those things popping out in Teams to really make sure we understand what fields are used in what context. And then down here, you see the definition of an actor. So there are templatings available that we can say, okay, an actor needs a stock item. And we can actually create a graph key value pair and add that to our request that we send to the graph with a stock item, for example. Then the API takes the manifest, fills it with the values you send over in your request, and the user gets notified with that said sentence, but with those two strings replaced with actual values. Although the actor is a system value, so you don't need to care about that, but stock item is something that I created, so I need to provide a value for that here. In the Active Directory, again, the web application with the ID, I have in my Azure tenant, you see same ID, an application registration there, and I consented to those permissions so that the graph allows calls from my application ID, and I consented because this is just on my demo tenant for the whole organization, and I think it's read and send. For sending, you just would need to have the send permission here, but you need to configure those in order to be able to really send that out. Again, those two types, what does this look like? The simple one we will see in the demo is just, okay, template text manifest. You see here, that's the template text, and the value and the content we will add by code because we will use C# later on to really make this pop and see, okay, what is what. And the more advanced one is really, okay, with proper text, again, coming from code, and then here, values for location and what actually needs to be done. I was looking for the description part quite some time, and then I realized, okay, I have notification settings in Teams, of course, as well. If you install an application manifest that includes those activity types for notifications, you will see here, and it's the case we will call it because we have a demo around pizza, so it's called Giuseppe. We have here a configuration, and in there, again, is my description. So that's where this field pops out. But let's have a look in the demo. So I'm going to close PowerPoint, and just for simplicity, we have here an application prepared. The use case basically is that we are a pizza restaurant. We called it Pizza Factory, and the idea is that, okay, you can go in there and see all the orders that are there. I can create some demo orders just for the fun of it. So multiple different types of pizza. And if I would go through the whole demo, it's more like, okay, it's something like a supply chain, basically. We have something that gets created, the pizza, that needs some items, and sooner or later, we will run out of certain ingredients. So if a dashboard here, we see, okay, we have, whatever item you choose, but I think in our case, it's always pineapple that is gonna be very low. So the system will start and say, okay, I need more pineapples in order to serve our customers. This is an application that lives outside of Teams, but the idea is how can we integrate the notification and other parts of the application inside of Teams. For that, let me jump over to my Teams client. Of course, we have the option to create static tabs. So again, that's just a few in the application, and we have a chat here, and we also have a bot that you can use to call or order pizza, or a bot that also is capable to say, okay, doing basically the same thing we will do shortly with a notification. The bot says a proactive message here, okay, we need to restock. But how can we make it sure that we get something in here? For that, let me start the local version of the application. And I just added a new page here. And there are two buttons, a simple and the advanced activity. And if I arrange the windows now right, let's do it that way. I click on simple activity, you will see, okay, I got a notification down here and in my activity feed, and it's saying, okay, you see template text from the manifest, value code, content and code. If I click on advanced activity, graph call again, and then it says, okay, Giuseppe needs pineapples to keep the kitchen running. You see the application actually also has something inside the .NET world where some information pops out and says, okay, we need pineapples. It's just like, okay, it's not in the logic, but it's just by click of a button. Again, graph call, and I will create the element here. If I click here, yep, now it's there. It will open up my static Teams application with a configured tab, allowing me to see, okay, pineapple is really on 0, so we need to do something about that. How is that implemented? This notify page, first of all, it's just, for my case, it's a Blaze application, but you can create that in the way you want. Blaze application, short reference, I'm already using Stefan's work around HTWOO outside the context he first thought about it. So I'm using it also in my Blazor applications already. 2 simple buttons, simple and advanced. Of course, I need to create a graph client. In my case, as I'm a Blazor application living on the server side, so I'm fine with having a client ID and the client secret because it's secure, it's on the server, it's not in the client. I'm creating the graph client in my initialized method. And then it's, in the simple case, I'm creating topic, a body, and I call Microsoft Graph for a certain user, and I hand over to the send activity notification method the topic, my activity name. The null value basically is an integer value if you have a chain of activities, my body, and also null in the simple way, because for my simple notification, I don't have any special parameters. For the advanced one, down here, you see the difference. I'm creating template parameters, and I hand over those template parameters in my call with stock item. So if we have, again, a look at the manifest, you see here, stock item, and that's basically how those things come together. You need to create, the request, the call, with the parameters and the correct names. So basically like a string parsing, you have a name and you have a value, and the system will take care of that and create actor on its own, and then fill out your brackets with whatever you choose from here. So that's an easy way to notify your customers or your users, and you can go even a little bit more sophisticated. Because in our case now, we are just linking through an URL to our dashboard. So it's the Teams URL, the entity ID of my Teams application, or the app ID of my Teams application, my entity ID of my static tab, and then a fallback URL in case Teams cannot make sense out of that strings, and that it will fall back to my URL. But you could also add their parameters. So next thing would be to say, okay, I would also like to have my own parameters in there. So I would be able to not only call or notify the end user, but also hand over an element, or it's a context variable that then can be read by this page and acted upon. That's a little bit trickier than just providing a URL parameter. You need to go the way that Teams deep linking operates. So you would need to create an additional URL parameter with a context value, and you will get back that context value from the Teams SDK. So it's not directly from the URL. You would need to ask the JavaScript Teams SDK for your static tab or for your tab for that parameter, and then you can act on inside of your application. And with that, I'm happy to hand over to Chris.
Excellent. Awesome, Tommy. Thank you. Fantastic demo. This is really cool stuff. Love the integration of Stefan's HTWOO as well. Shows the community collaboration, which is awesome. think you've officially and effectively helped the pizza industry today as well. Everyone's going to leave this session here today and order some pizza for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. All right.
Perfect.
Up next, of course, is the one and only Chris Kent, who's going to bring us straight from the horse's mouth list formatting magic.
Yo, yo, yo. All right, let's get started then. Let's take a look at a few things here. All right, so we head over to our classic Warrior Horses site, of course. And the Warrior Horses, they've got a couple of lists here. They've got a list called battles. And in this list, all they're doing is they've got a battle, and they've got the commander for that battle. And then they've got this related list over here called spoils, right? And so it's got to look up to that battle, and it's just got details. So it's a real master, parent-child kind of situation there. Okay. Now, because the Warrior Horses love all things, horrible and painful, they've recently started getting to Power Apps. So let's take a look. They built a little Power App around this called Spoils Tracker 3000, right? So if we run that little thing, a very exciting and beautiful app that makes you all weep at its beauty comes up here, right? It lists those battles, and if you click on one of them, right, you'll get just the spoils for that battle. Wowee! Right? So that's cool, right? And that's awesome. Now, how do we kind of integrate this, right? So we've got this idea of lists, we've got this idea of list formatting. How do we kind of create a unique or a shared experience here, right? What are some of the things we can do to make that a little better? So one of the things we can do, right, first off, is add a way to launch directly into that app, right? So if we want to come in here, we're going to go more, because I want to choose a calculated column type. And I only do that because I just want the format, right? So I don't really care about an editable value. So launch, for that, I'm just going to make it equals double quote, and I'm just hit OK. Now I'm head over to our samples repo, where we have a sample for you called a generic launch power app. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to just paste that in here in advanced mode. All right, get rid of that junk. Paste this very beautiful format. Now let's make this a little bigger so we can see it. The whole idea is here, it just creates a button. And if I preview that, you can see it creates this beautiful button that says open an app. And then it's got this link here. Now, the first thing I need to do is make sure it's pointed to my Power App. So if I go back to Power Apps, pick the Power App I want to link to, go to Details, I get this beautiful web link here. If I right-click on that and I say Copy Link, I'm just going to head back to that format, and just everywhere that's in these first set of quotes, all the way up to the ampersand before hide navbar, and I'm just going to paste that in. Now you'll notice this actually happened to already be my Power App, so it didn't change a lot. But then I've got this hide navbar equals true, which will get rid of the little Power Apps sweet bar junk, right? And then I have this item ID equals ID, and we'll talk about that. That's deep linking, and I'm going to show you that briefly. But the idea here is that's pretty good. One of the things, though, is I don't really like that icon. So if I head over here to Flyken, so flyken.io, where I can search for an icon, I happen to know there's one that I want. It's called Crown. All right, I'm going to hit this to copy the name, and I'm going to head back in here to this guy, and I'm just going to paste over this icon name with Crown. If I preview that, ooh, so pretty. Now, if I save that, and I can click on this guy, right, and it's going to launch the app. Now, it just goes straight to the main page because it launched the app, right? So what is this item ID equals 1 all about? Well, let's see if we can handle that. Now, this isn't a Power Apps class or anything, but I can show you briefly how we handle this. So if we go to the app, we go to the onStart event. I'm just going to copy the code to handle my parameter, right? So copy that, and I'll paste that sucker in here. Let's make it a little bigger so we can all see it. And so the whole idea is I'm just looking for parameter item ID. If it's not blank and it's a number, then I'm going to load something in my, I've got a variable called battle item, right? And all it's going to do is going to go look it up from the battles list and stick it in there, and then it's going to navigate directly into the spoils screen. Very exciting. Let's save that. Let's publish and hope that our publish catches up here. Yeah, let's publish this beautiful version. All right, so we're going to publish that. We're going to give that just a minute while we look at a couple of other items here. All right, so we'll come back to see the deep link working. But what if I want to do some other stuff? Like if I look at my spoils list, well, that's kind of fancy. I've got a little icon here. Again, another icon from the Fluent UI, and that's cool. Well, if I want that same experience over in Power Apps, right? So I can do that. All I need to do is find those icons. And so let's see, Diamond was one of them. Let's grab Diamond. Hover over that. We go to export, and we're just going to save it as SVG. That's just going to download it for us. And then we'll do the same thing for the, I think it was, let's see, the safe box product variant. There it is. Very exciting name. All right, and we're just export. We're going to save that one as SVG as well. And then, you know, we need money, of course. All right. We're going to grab this money icon, and we're going to export that one to SVG as well. And then I think we've got one more, right? And that's the recycle bin. So let's just look at trash. There we go. Recycle bin. And we're going to export that guy. Okay, so now we've got all those. That's exciting. If we head back into our Power App, all right, we go over to Media, and we're just going to upload. And we go to My Downloads, where here they all are. I'm going to grab the ones I just did. I'm going to open them and stick them in right there, just as the SVG they are. Now, if I had wanted, and I just kind of forgot, but you can actually set the color of these within Flycon here. So if you go to the advanced color options, you could pick any number of options, and they'll export that way. All right, so if I didn't want it to be, you know, the standard kind of black, I could do orange, whatever I want. All right, but let's go back here. So now if I click on this little template guy, instead of sample image, I can actually write a switch statement that's almost identical to the switch statement I've written in the format. All right, so if I just paste that guy, bam. So you'll see I'm now using the Fluent UI icons right here. It's great. It works well. I'm excited. All right, I can go back. I can see how they, what is in here? I don't know. Invasion of the Grasslands. All right, beautiful. All right, but that's the idea. That's one idea. So now we've got some integration here. It's a similar kind of look and feel, and all I've done is just put an SVG directly in there. And that's all right. But what if we do something a little further, right? What if back in our list, we add another column? Now we're going to do another format only column. That is the hiding column. So I'm going to go more. And we're going to go with another calculated column, which is right there. And we're just going to call this one support. All right, so, and we'll say again, equals, double quote, just so we don't have to stare at that sucker. All right, so now we got that, and now I'm going to take another sample we've got. So format this column, advanced mode, and I'm just going to paste in our other sample, which is a generic mail to button. All right, so all this is going to do, if I paste this guy in here, preview it, it creates this lovely thing, right? And if you hit it, it's going to launch an email. All right, so let's save that, and we'll see what that looks like. If I click that guy, I get an email launched. You know, it's got information from the list, right? So it goes to the person that it's for, and it works great. So that's nice. Again, that's a sample. We're not going to go into details on how that's put together, but that sample is available for you. Now, if I look inside here, I actually have the same thing down here. So I have that same kind of support button, and that's cool. And they even have a similar icon because I picked one that purposely is also in Power Apps. Now, you'll find that actually Power Apps, we've got about 2,000 plus icons available in Fluent UI, and in Power Apps, you've got about 100. So big difference there. So if I wanted to change this icon, right? So say someone comes down here and they're like, we don't like envelopes anymore, right? This is for automated chatbot support, or I don't know what. All right, we're just going to put robot. And let's preview that. Hey, there's a beautiful robot icon. So that's great, but what do I do about Power Apps now? Now Power Apps no longer matches, right? I want to use the same icon there. Well, if I head back over to Power Apps, the first thing I might do is I go to the preview, and I'm going to go down here to the footer, and I'm going to insert, right? I could try and find another icon, right? You'll see that the icons are pretty limited here, but there's no robot. So if I want to add a guy, what I could do is I could add an image, right? So if I did the exact same thing I did before, where I'm going to upload, you know, I've already downloaded robot. Let's go ahead and grab it. All right, so same way from Flycon. I upload that, that's great, right? And I'm just going to grab it, I'm just going to stick it in there, right? And so that seems okay at first, right? Okay, well, good. Now I've got that, and I grab this guy, and I grab the on select, which is just the launch for the email, does the exact same thing. And I paste it in here, all right? Ooh, not settings. Go to action, and I go to on select, and I paste the exact same, very beautiful launch, right? So now, I mean, it works. If I click it, all right, we're going to get that same email experience. That's great. But one of the problems I've got here is, you know, it doesn't quite act the same. All right, so if I hit play on this, it's a little more obvious, right? We got a nice hover color, nothing right there. All right, so what's going on? All right, let's see if we can fix that. Oh, thanks. Okay, if I click that guy, all right, and I click color, it says color here, but you click it, it's actually the fill. It's a lie, right? So it's the fill, and right here you can see the fill is transparent, right? But I don't actually have a color because that's coming from that SVG, and I have a hover fill, all right? So I could say the hover fill is going to be color .red, right? Let's see what that looks like. So now if I hold Alt, well, that is not what I want at all, right? That is pretty lame, in fact. I'm going from there to this, right? Instead of showing the line as red. So what can we do about that? Well, that's what we're going to figure out in 4 minutes. We can do it. All right, there is a blog explaining this. So I'm going to fly through it, but you can check out the whole blog. It has all the steps right in there. But what we're going to do is we're going to download that icon. So again, I've already downloaded the robot. All right, so let's go back into our Power App area. There it is. And let's go open this guy. Where's my downloads? Got my downloads. I'm just going to open up Robot in something called Inkscape. Inkscape is a free SVG editor. It's open source. Check it out. There's a link in the blog to it. And it's free and it's exciting. And you will love it and weep at its beauty. Okay, and all that. So the idea here is we're going to take this icon and we're going to make it so we can use it. And the way we do that is the first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a square. We're just going to draw any kind of square. It doesn't matter. We don't want a stroke on it, though. And then we're just going to tap on this icon. And we're going to find out which one's bigger, height or width. Copy it, whichever one's bigger. And we're going to apply that same thing to the block. All right, so same thing, beautiful. Now we pick them both. Now we're going to go to our line and distribute, align relative to page. So that way we just kind of center them together. And we're going to go up to path. Again, I'm going really fast, but there's a blog about it. Exclusion. And the only thing other thing I'm going to do is go to document properties. So bring them over here, and I'm going to resize the page to the content. That's it. So that's exciting. Then I'm going to do a save as, and in this case, because I just don't want all this extra junk that's in there, I'm going to pick optimized SVG, and we're going to call this robot. We'll call it robot special 2. I may have practiced. Okay, robot special 2. Very exciting. There's a few different options you want to pick. Basically, it just gets rid of all this extra junk we don't need. We're going to hit OK. And then if we look in our downloads folder, we've got a robot special 2, which I'm just going to open up in, say, Notepad. Right here. So robot special 2. And the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find and replace all of those double quotes with single quotes because I want to use it inside Power Apps. So I'm going to replace all. So I've got that. Got this beautiful thing here. The only thing I'm going to add, well, let's grab that. Let's just grab that guy, and let's head back over here to our Power App. We can leave that alone. So in our Power App, now instead of this image, one of the nice things is we can actually set this to a data URL. All right, so in this case, where it's exactly what we're going to do, we're going to grab some of this. We just got to start it off. Instead of calling it the actual image, we're going to go there, and we're going to say, and add encode URL. And here's where we're just going to paste in our SVG that we just copied. That is not what we just copied. Let's grab, there we go. This. All right, and we'll close that out. So now we've pasted our SVG. That looks interesting, right? Because it's got that black. So one of the things we can do is if we happen to know the fill color, and we do, we're just going to grab that and we're going to say, right in here, we're going to say the fill is going to equal bam, bam, like a that's, right? And I think that's the wrong color. Let me see what that's supposed to be. Let's pick the correct color. That's kind of important. All right, we'll grab that and we'll paste that in instead. Now, what you'll see is a little weird. It actually disappears, right? And that's okay, because now we can use the fill, because we basically created a reverse image here. If we go up to fill, all right, let's set that to, just be black for now. It's fine, right? So it's black, but if we play this, now we get a nice hover effect. We actually get the real hover effect because we are essentially just setting the background, the fill value of the SVG, and the SVG itself is actually a negative of the icon. Okay, everyone got all that? Okay, real quick, let's wrap up and summarize. So for deep linking, you can build a button using the sample, just append your ID or whatever else you need to that href, and then you can handle those parameters directly to the Power App. It creates a really nice integration piece, especially if you're using those lists and you want to be able to drive those directly, or you want to be able to link those, all over the place throughout SharePoint. Then if you want to use those same icons everywhere, that Fluent or the Flycon.io is your friend. It's going to make it a lot easier to find those. Then you can edit them with Inkscape as you export them and whatever you need. And it's very exciting. And finally, here's some resources. So check out the blog post, but also check out these 2 samples to help get you started. And that's it. That's all for me.
Awesome, Chris. Excellent. There's no horsing around in that demo, is there? But all right. Well, Friends, thank you for spending the time with us today. Just as a wrap up, our next Microsoft 365 General Development Community Call will be on June 10th, 2 weeks from today at 7 a.m. Same bat time, same bat channel. SharePoint Framework Call will be next week, June 3rd at 7 a.m. as well. You could always see this will be available 24 hours after the call at aka.ms/m365pnp/videos. And you can also see all the other developer community calls. There's going to be some consolidation of this coming after the summer months of July and August. So we look forward to that. But as of right now, you can find all these different community calls here. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.